This is the 27th of last seed, the year of Akatosh 433. These are the closing days of the Third Era and the final hours of my life.
So, Bethesda finally did it. They finally did something right, which has been a while since they've done that. I'm bringing you my review for Oblivion Remastered on PC, obviously, and I just wanted to give you a few thoughts. It's not going to be a massive review. I played this game back in the day in its original form, and yeah, I enjoyed it. But the game is an older game now, obviously, and some of the game mechanics and just the way the game handled itself are very much from yesteryear. So, if you don't know what Bethesda have done here, they've taken the old bones of the old game, the Gamebryo engine, and they've smashed it together with the Unreal Engine 5 engine. So, what's going on underneath the game is still being handled by the old engine, but then the graphics, the animations, what you're actually seeing is mostly being handled by the Unreal 5 engine, which looks amazing. So, top marks to the guys who've actually done the remaster. The other company involved are a studio called Virtuos. They're the ones who've actually recreated all the assets in the game. So things like swords and the creature models, just basically every single object in the game has been recreated completely for this remaster. I'm going to keep confusing them to you because this is being called a remaster, but I would say it's closer to a remake. It is very impressive how much they've done. And you know, if you blinked, you could be playing a modern day game, and you wouldn't realize it. So yeah, top marks for the actual visuals. Now, obviously, with the Gamebryo engine, which is the thing that existed before the creation engine Bethesda used, there's obviously going to be problems still. The games from Bethesda have always had jank, always had bugs and problems, and they're still here now. You still see NPCs getting trapped on terrain. There's assets dropping from the sky when you enter a certain room. The problems are still there, so don't expect this to be a complete, a cleansing of all them problems. Bethesda still make janky games, and they always have. That's just one of their charms, I suppose. So once I got the game installed, I did what I usually do. I went into the settings and I whacked all the settings up to maximum. Bear in mind I'm at 1440p on a 3080 Ti. And in the sewers, when you first start, I was getting around 100 frames a second, so I was pretty happy with that. And then once I got outside, the frame rate came crashing down, and I was getting around 40 to 50 frames a second, sometimes 60, but yeah, it wasn't a great experience. And there was also lots of what Digital Foundry have also commented on, which is these micro stutters or frame drops. And these appear pretty much all the way through the game, and especially when you get near the end of the game and you've done a lot of changes in the world, you tend to find that after a few hours of play, the performance of the game generally gets worse and worse and worse. Now, this was a well-known thing in all the Elder Scrolls games back in the day. The more changes you make in the game, the more the game has to memorize where you put things, and it's constantly fighting to remember where everything is. So this looks like a problem that's kind of come from the past. Obviously because the game is still built on the old engine. One thing I didn't do when I changed the settings at the beginning of the game, I didn't activate the Lumen hardware ray tracing, and a friend was commenting on the setting and I just went on to check I had it on and I didn't. So when I activated that, I had another frame drop, so then at that point I had to start tweaking the settings and getting into getting a bit more performance about certain things like shadows and whatnot. Once I'd put the Lumen ray tracing on, I couldn't turn it off because it makes the game look infinitely better. The forest that I was in at the time just looked immediately like a whole generation better. The shadows, the depth was incredible. And then walking around cities at night, you've got the light coming out of different places, torches and buildings. Yeah, if you can manage to get the Lumen ray tracing hardware running, I absolutely recommend that as one of the settings. The only unfortunate part is that at the moment the game is very unoptimized, and I think if Bethesda wants to keep this game you know, in the high 90s as it is at the moment, I think they should spend some time working on optimization, especially if the reports are true. They're allegedly looking at doing Fallout 3. Now that would be amazing. I'm far much more of a Fallout person than an Elder Scrolls person. So my dream would be Fallout 3 or maybe New Vegas recreated in Unreal Engine 5. Now that I would be on board for, definitely. But you know, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think they really should start working on optimization immediately if they haven't already, and get that tied down. Now, aside from visuals, they have actually worked on other parts of the game as well. They've made the leveling system a bit more like Skyrim, so you don't level through the old way now. You level through actually doing things like running around, jumping, swimming. These all now level naturally like they did in Skyrim, which I think is a much better system. The only problem is with the leveling is that it still kept the old system where mobs and enemies, they level with you. So when you're facing up against creatures, say at level 20 or 25, they organically move with you, and their armor also increases with that level. So one day you'll be fighting, you know, rats level 1, and you just one-shot them, and then the next day you've leveled, but the elves and the vampires have leveled with you, and they're wearing like glass armor and stuff. It just feels a bit false. It did back in the day, and I didn't like it, and I don't like it now. Another aspect of the older games is that the level design and the dungeon design has not aged very well, I don't think. So even in the first sewer system, you tend to see the same coordinates, the same like tile sets from time to time. And as you do more dungeons, it becomes very repetitive. And I really wish they just maybe tweaked something to do with that. Maybe added a few more variations in the dungeon design. Because at the moment, I would say I'm still enjoying playing the game, and they're still great to run through. And obviously, it looks infinitely better. But you can't help notice almost straight away that, you know, these are very much the same dungeons all the way through. And I think the Oblivion gates fall foul of the same thing. They're procedurally generated, but they just all feel the same. So if that's going to be a problem for you, if you've never played Oblivion before, then yeah, you're going to feel like this is a very dated system, and it is, you know, and I think some people might struggle with that. But with all this said, there is a reason why Bethesda, because, you know, their games are popular, and even with all the quirks and the problems and the issues, they still are enjoyable games. And I have to admit, you know, if we just accept that this is an older game, it's still got them older issues. It is great to see this game like revamped in a new visual engine. I've really enjoyed my time with it. I've leveled pretty far. I've not finished the game this time. I finished it I think 3 times in its original form. But yeah, joining all the guilds and going off on quests. Enjoying how now the game looks incredible. Obviously they've added a sprint as well, which makes things a lot faster. I very much appreciate that. I think if they hadn't have added a sprint, yeah, I think my enjoyment would have gone down considerably. But overall, yeah, I would recommend this to most people who enjoy RPGs. And Bethesda have done a really good job along with Virtuous. They've really done themselves proud. And I'm glad, actually. I don't want Bethesda to fail. You know, I don't want them to fall in on their own under their own weight. But over the last few years, they've really been failing on numerous levels. I don't think Starfield did particularly well. I didn't like it at all. I thought it was an absolute waste of design, and it didn't have any of the soul that Bethesda games usually have. So that still has me worried for Elder Scrolls 6. But I think more immediately, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with like a Fallout 3 remaster. I think, yeah, that's definitely going to get my attention. But that's it for me, guys. I'm going to leave it there. That's all I want to say about it, really. Feel free to drop a comment and let's get a conversation going. I'd love to talk about how people are enjoying the game and, you know, what's been your experience of the graphics, the new assets, and just generally going in and playing an older game with a new coat of paint. I'd love a like and a subscribe as well if you guys like the channel, and I will see you on the next video. Take care, guys. Bye.